The views and opinions expressed here are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone or anything. This podcast may contain adult language. Audience members' discretion is advised.
They say humans are social animals. They can't live alone. But you can live pretty well by yourself. I tell you, instead of feeling alone and bored, it's better to have real solitude all by yourself. So it doesn't matter if I'm there or not, right?
You're just afraid being abandoned. So
What's going on, guys? Long time no see. Happy New Year's to everybody. I've missed you guys so much. It's been a while. I think the last time that I made a podcast, it was last year, obviously. It was November 17th, I think. That was my last podcast. But welcome. Today is January 10th, 2021. This is the Progressive Vibe. I'm your host, Dottie. It's season 3, episode 1, and the title is Thoughts and Analysis on U.S. Capitol Riot. So that's going to be my show today. My thoughts and analysis on what happened Wednesday, which was a lot. But first things first, guys. Thank you guys so much for listening to my podcast and sharing it. It means the world to me, guys. Thank you for your support and positive words. And I've been having a steady listenership, and it's been amazing and mind-blowing because I don't know, I'm weird. I listen to my podcast, I'm like, yo, this just something about it probably just ain't gonna sound right, or it just, like, I don't know, I just be psyching my own self out. And I've been listening to people's opinions and stuff about, like, what can I do to critique the show, and being laid back is more is more the word, because I've been hearing, Dottie, you sound good, man. You just sound like you're a little uptight, just chill. I mean, it's your show, it's a vibe. And I was like, you know what, you're right, and it is a vibe, and it's a progressive vibe. And so I'm going to try to, if I seem a little tense in the previous season, guys, I'm so sorry. I'm just like, I don't know. I be nervous, and like I see like people are like listening and reaching out and stuff like that. I'm like, holy crap! Like, I don't know. I'm humbled. It's just like I don't be knowing like the the right words to use in like showing that I'm like super happy and humbled. But yeah, guys, I hope you guys have been doing good though, and I hope everybody's been staying safe. Obviously, it's still a pandemic going on. I hope you guys' loved ones and families been staying safe and sound through all this. It's kind of hard to stay safe and sound when you have so many people still not believing in COVID or not taking COVID as serious. And on top of that, you have, you know, the inauguration for the new president, Joe Biden, and that's not um, looking all traditional, as they say, because you have Donald Trump um, clearly then like kind of lost his mind. I'm gonna just keep it real with you guys. I think that he has checked out the building. Um, but I mean, I don't, you know, his last 4 years of presidency, I didn't ever think he never checked in anyway, you know, or fully checked in. When you come down the escalator and your first remarks is like, you know, Mexicans or rapists and terrorists and blah blah blah. Like, I mean, that right there kind of was like the the proof in the pudding, if you will, and just the whole thing of him like to me, it seemed like he incited that riot that took place Wednesday on the U.S. Capitol, along with some more people, you know, who's Donald Trump's right hand men, if you will, or women, you know, like Giuliani or, you know, Ted Cruz to a certain extent, you know, Josh Hawley, you know, all these people I feel like are complicit. And I mean, if you really want me to be honest with you, it just seems like during the 4 years of Trump's presidency, Republicans were complicit anyway. You know, I don't, you know, just because you have a disagreement with something that the president says amongst yourselves doesn't really do it any justice. You signed off on everything. At the end of the day, I mean, his agenda is the same as you guys. So all this stuff about being shocked that he would do this and all this and all that, like, you know, miss me with all that, you know. You were on the back burner and chose to let it keep going out of all the stuff that he's previously done in his last 4 years of being president. But I do digress. But I wanted to, again, take the time out before I get into today's articles at hand that I had presented for you guys. I did want to, you know, thank everybody again for listening in and tuning in. And I hope you guys, like, again, continue to, you know, reach out to me. And, you know, the conversation is awesome. You know, I love it. And I like having more than one perspective. You know, you don't have to necessarily agree with the show, but all perspectives are welcome. All parties are welcome, and it's really no right or wrong answer when it comes to politics, but it's a right or wrong answer when it comes to humanity. And so, I feel like what happened on the U.S. Capitol Wednesday was a disgrace. I thought it was hypocritical. I thought it was treason. I thought it was a lot of stuff. It was a lot of emotions running through me when I seen that, and I'm just wondering, like, what. Well, I kind of got an answer for it, but it's just like, man, people on the global scale, like other countries, gotta be looking at us and like, America's shit stinks just like ours, you know, because, and it is really starting to, you know, show. It's really starting to show what the government thinks of his people, you know, and it's disheartening, and you know, but it's again, it's not surprising. It just puts stuff in a perspective of, man, I was thinking this about America, but now that it's happening before my eyes to see, it really, really just highlights uh, the inequality and the lack of social justice in this country. It really, really does. But that's kind of I don't know how you guys are feeling about it. I'm pretty sure you guys are just as speechless and pissed and all kind of emotions, just like I am. But hopefully, you know, things will change. People are going to be held accountable, and yeah. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to give you guys the details on a ProPublica article that reads, Capitol riots planned for weeks in plain sight. The police weren't ready. And it's by Logan Jaffe. It's by Lydia DePillis, Isaac Ornsdorf, and J. David McSwain. So these were the journalists who wrote this article from ProPublica, and I thought it was fascinating, and I wanted to share it with you guys. I'm gonna read it after the break, and yeah, guys. So just stay tuned, and I'll see you after the break. What's going on, guys? We're back here on the Progressive Vibe. So I wanted to give you guys some details on this article that I wrote from ProPublica. And again, it's called Capitol Riots Planned for Weeks in Plain Sight. The Police Wasn't Ready. And again, the piece is by Logan Jaffe, Lydia DePillis, Isaac Ornsdorf, and J. David McSwain. So I'm going to go just through bits and pieces on it, and just kind of give you my analysis on what I think about it. So it says the invasion of the U.S. Capitol on Wednesday was provoked in plain sight. For weeks, the far right supporters of President Donald Trump's rallied on social media that the election had been stolen. They openly discussed the idea of violent protests on the day Congress met to certify the result. And it says, quote, we came up with the idea to occupy just outside the Capitol on January 6th, end quote. Leaders of the Stop the Steal movement wrote on December the 23rd. They called their Wednesday demonstration the Wild Protest, a name taken from a tweet by Trump that encouraged his supporters to take their grievances to the streets of Washington. He said, quote, "will be wild," end quote. The president tweeted. So this invasion was, because that's what it was. It was an invasion, you know. It's so hard to believe that the U.S. Capitol Police, who guards the U.S. Capitol, were caught off guard. I just find that hard to believe that they were just caught off guard, though. I find it just so hard to believe that out of all this preparation, out of all these hints and these, I guess, context clues, if you will, you know, of these far right militia groups, it's just hard to believe that you didn't see this stuff coming. And you know, it's already, like, the stuff's already been shown on social media. Like, I seen this cop. They had video of this one cop waving the rioters inside the U.S. Capitol. Like, let's go. Like, come on. You know, like, you can't make this stuff up. Like, and it's really, really sad to see that people who wear these badges, people who are in these powerful positions, such as law enforcement, seems to be I'm not saying all of them. I'm just saying they are obviously some, because some have been seen, again, as I just told you, waving rioters to go riot. Some have been taking pictures with the rioters before the riot or during the riot. I mean, you even have congressmen. It was one congressman, I think, out of West Virginia. He serves at the state house, and he resigned, but he was identified as one of the rioters in that crowd. Like, so not only do you have people who serve in Congress a part of this, you have law enforcement who's supposed to protect and serve all, a part of this overthrow of the government, because that's what it was. And excuse me, that's what it was. And it's kind of just disheartening and upsetting to see these Trump supporters, who are largely white men, just running ramshot through the U.S. Capitol halls, just breaking windows, destroying property, taking property. It was one, like, I mean, I just have so many thoughts on it, and it's hard to believe that the U.S. Capitol Police, law enforcement, it's hard to believe that they were caught off guard when all the evidence kind of seems to indicate, at least from a certain standpoint, that you had some officers who were complicit in the act itself. So I'm going to keep reading this article, because it's from ProPublica, because it's just sad, man. It goes on to say, Ali Alexander, the founder of the movement, encouraged people to bring tents and sleeping bags and avoid wearing masks for the event. If DC escalates, so do we. End quote. And Alexander wrote on Parler last week, one of scores of social media posts welcoming violence that were reviewed by ProPublica in the weeks leading up to Wednesday's attack on the Capitol. Members, and then it goes on to say, thousands of people heeded that call for reasons that remained unclear Wednesday night. The law enforcement authorities charged with protecting the nation's entire legislative branch, nearly all of the 535 members of Congress gathered in a joint session along with Vice President Mike Pence, were ill prepared to contain the forces massed against them. And then it goes on to say, on Wednesday afternoon, a thin line of U.S. Capitol Police with only a few riot shields between them and a knot of angry protesters engaged in hand-to-hand combat with rioters on the steps of the West Front. They struggled. They struggled with a flimsy set of barricades as a mob in helmets and bulletproof vests pushed its way towards the Capitol entrance. And then it says videos show officers stepping aside and some taking selfies as if to usher Trump supporters into the building they were supposed to guard. So as I was saying, I mean, they got videos of officers stepping aside and some taking selfies with the rioters. I mean, and then it goes to say a former Capitol policeman, well versed in his agency's procedures, was mystified by the scene he watched unfold on live television. Larry Schaffner, a 34-year Capitol Police veteran who retired in December 2019, said his former colleagues were experienced in dealing with aggressive crowds. He said, quote, "It's not a spur-of-the-moment demonstration that just popped up," end quote, Schaffner said. Quote, "We have planned known demonstration that has propensity for violence in the past and threats to carry weapons." He said, "Why would you not prepare yourself as we have done in the past," end quote. And it says a spokesperson for the Capitol Police did not respond to a request for comment. I mean, so you got a former Capitol policeman who served 34 years, Mr. Schaffner, saying that we train for this all the time. And it's kind of hard to believe that you wouldn't prepare yourself for this situation, because it's been maybe not situation that equate to what happened Wednesday, but we've been through demonstrations, we've been through practices, and he's saying pretty much it's kind of hard to see that you guys didn't see this coming. So there's that. I'm going to keep scrolling down past some of this stuff. It says the warnings of Wednesday's assault on the Capitol were everything. Perhaps not entirely specific about the playing time and exact location of an assault on the Capitol, but enough to clue in law enforcement about the potential for civil unrest. And it says, on December 12th, a poster of the website mymilitia.com urged violence if senators made official the victory of President-elect Joe Biden. So you got a website, My Militia, like saying, I mean, on December 12th, well before this stuff even came, like was before this stuff even happened, saying that they were urging violence if senators took it upon themselves to do what the democratically election said do, which was acknowledge Biden to be the new president of the United States come January 20th. That there were going to be violence if that was the acknowledgement. And it happened. And it was a threat. And I just don't see how law enforcement, FBI, Secret Service, I don't understand how everybody was just like so caught off guard on this. And you know, these folks made it inside the building, you know, and vandalized stuff. You know, they were being physical with police, beating up policemen. You know, the senators had to go up under like this underground bunker type thing, and you know, the security guards on the Senate floor barricaded themselves in, away from the angry mob outside, and like fired bullets, and like one lady, you know, got shot and died because of that, you know, and it was a Trump supporter, you know, and I don't condone violence at any, I don't wish death upon anybody, and it's unfortunate that that lady had to lose her life, but at the same time, I mean, you're trying to breach the Senate floor and trying to, apparently, I don't know, take the senators hostage or hurt the senators. I don't know, but you're trying to do something that's unlawful, and you know, you paid a price for it. And it was unfortunate that the lady lost her life, as well as cops. I mean, lost their lives in that. You know, putting their life on the line. It's just sad that you had some cops apparently try to do the right thing, and then you had some cops apparently were in it with the mobsters. So it's weird. It's weird to see all that stuff unfold the way it unfolded. And again, it's disappointing. It's just unfortunate. I'm just scrolling down on this ProPublica article. Yeah, and I'm gonna read this last thing right here. It says, the easily overpowered police force guarding the Capitol on Wednesday posed a stark contrast to the tactics deployed by local police during this summer's Black Lives Matter protest. Then the city felt besieged by law enforcement. Besieged by law enforcement, excuse me. And then it says on June 1st, following a few days of mostly peaceful protests, the National Guard, the Secret Service, and the U.S. Park Police fired tear gas and rubber bullets to disperse a non-violent crowd in Lafayette Square outside the White House to allow Trump to pose with a Bible in front of a nearby closed church. So, yeah. I just don't understand. If people don't see the hypocrisy in what's going on here, then I just don't have any hope for you, I guess. It's just like, if that would have been a Black Lives Matter protest that breached the U.S. Capitol, invaded it, trashed it, took belongings from it. You know, this guy went in the speaker's office, broke in the speaker's office, sitting on the chair, you know, with his feet on the table like he at the house. Took a laptop, you know. I just, they wouldn't have even made it to the steps, let alone to the floor. They almost made it to they almost made it to the Senate. They did make it to the Senate floor. And I mean, they trashed stuff. They hurt policemen, killed policemen, broke into Congress people's office, took their belongings. You know, people who was in there, if it was BLM, wouldn't have made it out of there. You know, and again, they would have never made it in there to begin with. But, you know, it just goes to show you the two Americas that's been upon us for a long time, and it just kind of highlighted that it ain't never went anywhere, you know. And it's sad to see, and you know, I don't know how it. I know how it happened, but I just still can't wrap my brain around, like, man, like a bunch of like Trump supporters then went in the U.S. Capitol and rioted. Like, I mean, they was talking about hanging Mike Pence. I mean, Mike Pence, you know, who is the vice president of the United States, you know, it has been Trump's lapdog. You know, he's been a yes man for Donald Trump his whole 4 years of presidency. And it just goes to show you the insanity from these people, because they talking about hanging Mike Pence because he's acknowledging what everybody else is acknowledging, except for like Trump supporters, and that's Trump lost the election. He lost the election. He deployed lawsuits in states that he thought that he won, and the judges, some who were Republican judges, asked where the evidence was, and they presented no evidence, and they threw it out because he had no evidence of voter fraud. It just wasn't a thing. And, you know, Trump's talking about, like, you know, just lying on social media, you know, about, you know, well, there's voter fraud, and, you know, he's calling the Georgia elected officials and trying to sabotage them into saying, hey, look, you know, find me 11,000 plus votes and stuff like that. Like, he's doing all this unlawful stuff because he's an unlawful president. But, you know, he's doing all this unlawful stuff because he's been unlawful pretty much his whole 4 years of presidency. And that's the thing about democracy. It's fragile, and it just goes to show you we didn't have a democracy in this country all along. And, you know, Donald Trump 4 years showed that. And he incited a mob to go down to the U.S. Capitol and use strength, you know, and you know, what Rudy Giuliani said, you know, trial by combat, you know, and you had videos of these people who were in the U.S. Capitol, these mobs, these terrorists, saying that, yeah, like, Trump and Giuliani and so forth, and you know, this is what they said, and this is what we're doing. That's how they took it, and you know, it was inciting violence and uh, insurrection, you know, and I just I think that the president, I think that Rudy Giuliani, I think that everybody who uh, incited insurrection, who incited that, Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, I think that these people should suffer consequences. Donald Trump, I think that they should suffer consequences. You know, you're complicit. They wouldn't have never act if you wouldn't to send out tweets or incited that or send out campaign emails to your constituents and stuff saying that, like, you know, again, inciting this stuff. You know, it's all out there for the public to see, and a lot of these folks, and vast majority of folks who, you know, voted for this man, you know, ain't in the same type of reality that we in. And again, this should never happen again, and people should suffer the consequences. People should do real life time for this. People should go to prison for this. And nobody is above the law. That's what's, you know, that's what's said all the time to minority groups. You know, you know, nobody's above the law, and so this should still stand with the rich and the powerful. And no matter what, you know, color you are, you know, you're not above the law. Even if you're the president of the United States, a crime is a crime. And, you know, regular people out here couldn't have got away with that. Well, apparently it seemed like they did to a certain extent. You know, I was going to say Trump supporters got away with it. I mean, they stormed the U.S. Capitol, broke in and, you know, hurt policemen, killed policemen, and, you know, had zip ties and chilling in the Congress, the Speaker's office and all this stuff, you know. So, you know, consequences have to happen. So it puts people on notice. It puts people in this country on notice that you can't get away with that. And it puts people on a global scale on notice. You know, we got countries that's looking at us like, man, you gonna let your own folks overthrow your own government? Like, it's just it's weak. You know, Donald Trump likes to use this word weak and things like that. Like, no, what's weak is you're not accepting an election, and and your base not accepting an election, and so you rather to cause harm and destruction and overthrow an election because it's how you feel. You know, well, you know, we felt during Donald Trump's 4 years of presidency that, you know, he colluded with Russians, and, you know, it seemed like it. I mean, he got impeached, but he still got to serve his whole term. And, you know, we felt that he should have been impeached and removed, but it didn't happen. And so now, you know, the chickens are coming home to roost, and Donald Trump lost, and he will not be president come January 20th. And so I'm sorry, MAGA supporters, but you're going to have to put on your big boy pants and take this L. Because that's what it is. And everybody who caused that destruction on the U.S. Capitol Wednesday, in history, you're gonna take an L. You took an L, and you know, I don't think history is gonna be too kind to you on that regard. And in some respects, you know, I gotta give it to MAGA supporters. You know, they ain't wear their masks, so you know now we get to see the world get to see again in history the people who was enacted in a coup, you know, trying to overthrow the government. All these people, you're like your faces are plastered forever on social media, rightfully so. But yeah, guys, we're gonna come back for this. We're gonna come back for the vent forum. I got time went away from me a little bit. We're almost at the 30 minute mark, and I got like one more article that I was going to do for you guys, and it's not going to be too long, I promise, because I made the first segment the longest. So we're going to do the vent forum, and it's just a social media break. I'm just going to read some of the social media posts on my Twitter, people who I follow, people who follow me back, and stuff that I just think interesting to do with politics, obviously. And I'm going to make sure I read their Twitter handles out, so you can follow them on Twitter if you like and keep up with them. And to just also give them credit, because, you know, got to give credit where credit's due. So stick around, guys. We're going to have the vent forum. Yes, it's no longer called the vent session, the vintage session. I just felt like it was too long of, I don't know, just too long of a title. So vent forum sounds pretty cool to me. So we're going to come back with that. Stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back. What's up, guys? We're back here on the Progressive Vibe. This is the vent forum of the podcast, so it's just a social media break. You know, I'm gonna read some stuff off Twitter, some posts from people who I follow, people who follow me back, show them some love, and I'm going to, of course, say their handle. So if you guys agree with them too, then if you got a Twitter account, maybe you can give them a follow. But this right here is from DJ at DJ_3 Club. He says, so 3 days after a treacherous mob descended on the Capitol, looted, vandalized, smeared feces, and beat a federal police officer to death, Republicans want us all to just, quote, move on and forget it in the name of, quote, unity. He said, I don't effing think so. Not happening. No, not no, but hell to the no. So, yeah, man, true. Like, it's just crazy to see some, like, Republicans saying, like, you know, we should just move on for the sake of unity. And, you know, if they try to impeach the president again, or if they invoke the 25th Amendment, meaning Republicans, then, you know, that's going to further divide the country and stuff like that. No. I'll tell you what's going to further divide the country. What's going to further divide the country, if you could just let one race do one thing, and then the other race be held accountable for doing the thing that the race that didn't get held accountable for does. That's what you call hypocrisy at its finest, seriously. And again, I agree with DJ You know, _3 club. I mean, I don't think that's gonna happen, and it shouldn't happen. Everybody who was complicit in the act, who incited that, should be held accountable for it. Plain and simple. I mean, the country is already divided. Bringing justice, I feel like will serve it justice. So, I feel like that was a real good point by DJ. Dr. J _3 club. I said DJ _3 club the first time, my bad. Dr. J _3 club. That's his or her. I don't know. That's their Twitter handle. So check them out. I follow them. And the only reason I say him or her because like I don't like their profile picture is Muhammad Ali, which is a cool profile picture. Obviously, I didn't want to just be gender specific in that because I don't know. But either way, great point. Obviously. Let's see. What else can I find? I'm just scrolling, guys. I'm just scrolling. Yeah, so another person I follow at Bhavik Lathia. So at Bhavik Lathia, that's BHAVIKLATHIA. Sorry if I'm botching your name, but I always have good points. He said the quote, "What is the point of removing him?" end quote, crowd are the same people who don't say shit when black people are shot 7 times in the back by police. I mean, you know, that's a good point. You know, it just kind of just shows you the tolerance of things in this country, stuff that's tolerated from one side of the, one side, and the other side is not so tolerable. And it's amazing that people are saying that no, you still shouldn't remove him, or that it's like what happened Wednesday was like apparently somehow Joe Biden's fault, like. But like these same folks, when you see, justice not being served for black people abroad when it comes to police brutality, they're quiet. But you can have folks come inside of a U.S. Capitol, beat up police, kill them, and it's justified. Apparently, it's just. It's upsetting. And last one here I'm going to read. This is by Freddie Brown at Freddie Brown 64. He said, lessons from January 6th. 1, you will probably never be super famous. Don't take selfies when you're storming the castle. It will be evidence. And then he said, 2, you will probably never be super rich. Don't steal the speaker's podium for a quick turnaround on eBay. Finn. So, like, I haven't liked that on Twitter yet, but I just liked it. That was at Freddie Brown 64 who made a very, very good point. So that does it for the vent forum. social break. We're going to be back with the final article I have for you guys, the final segment, and it is details on the federal prosecutors bring charges against 55 following Capitol rioters. And that is an article presented by The Hill. And yeah, guys, so I'm going to read that to you guys and give you my thoughts on that, and we'll be back. What's up, guys? We're back here on the Progressive Vibe. So, yes, so I had one article left that I wanted to share with you guys, and it was, as I said in the last previous segment, it was an article by The Hill, and it was titled "Federal Prosecutors Bring Charges Against 55 Following Capitol Rioters." And it's a piece by Harper Neege. So I wanted to read you guys some bits and pieces of it and give you guys my thoughts about it. Let's see, just trying to pull it up real quick, and here we go. So, yeah, it says the top federal prosecutor in Washington, D.C. said Thursday that his office has brought 55 cases against members of the mob that overran the Capitol, and that he's open to adding serious felony charges against both those involved in and those who helped instigate the riot. So it goes on to say Michael Sherwin, the acting U.S. attorney for D.C., said that the charges were brought in the district's federal and local courts, and that more could follow, adding that, quote, all options are on the table, end quote. And then he goes on to say, quote, this is an organic, fluid situation, but we will continue to aggressively pursue charges for all federal offenses based on the evidence both in the Superior Court side and in the federal court side, end quote, Sharon said on a call with reporters. He said, quote, we will bring the most maximum charges we can based on the conduct, end quote. He added when asked if the office was considering charging such as sedition, rioting, and insurrection. Sherwin said that the Department of Justice would be releasing charges documents later Thursday after the defendants had made their initial court appearances, but said that the weapon charges were being brought against some of the group. One man was arrested at the Capitol with a military semi-automatic rifle, end quote, and 11 Molotov cocktails that were, quote, ready to go, he said. Let's see. Sharon goes on to say that his investigation is still ongoing and that his office is open to bringing charges against those who may have organized or incited the riot, refusing to rule out speakers at a rally Wednesday shortly before the mob swarmed the Capitol. President Trump was among those who spoke, continuing to float baseless claims of election fraud and urging his supporters to, quote, fight and march on the Capitol. Says Sharon on Thursday wouldn't say whether his office would be investigating the White House, but reiterated that all options would be on the table for his probe. And then finally, he said, quote, we're trying to deal with the closest alligators to the boat right now. Oh, alligators, excuse me. We're trying to deal with the closest alligators to the boat right now, end quote, Sharon said. And he goes on to say, quote, those are the people who obviously breached the Capitol, created violence and mayhem there, and then exited. But yes, we are looking at all actors here, not only the people that went into the building, end quote. So yeah, the guy who's investigating this, Mr. Sherwin, Michael Sherwin, who is the acting attorney, U.S. Attorney of D.C., said that all options are on the table. And yes, as of right now, it's looking like 55 people, and hopefully convicted, and time to serve some times again, time to take that L. And so I thought it was fascinating that he said all options were on the table, and indeed they should be. And he said that, he was pretty much saying that, look, we're going to obviously prosecute and get to the names of everybody who made it inside the U.S. Capitol and played some kind of part of destruction. But yes, people who incited the violence should be prosecuted as well, and should be looked into and should be prosecuted as well. So, as I said in the previous segment, guys, I think that yes, everybody who was complicit in that should be prosecuted, and people who sit up there saying that the president shouldn't be prosecuted or the president didn't play a role in that. Like, I seen some polls. I don't have it right in front of me, but it was a vast majority of Republicans don't even think that Donald Trump even did anything wrong, let alone be prosecuted for anything. So these people are just living in a different reality that we're living in. And it's kind of cultish in a way. It's just so weird seeing that the folks that, the party that says they're about law and order so much, when your own base of supporters trashes their own house, our house, and you have people who serve in the government, Republicans, are talking about, well, it could have been Biden supporters in Trump gear, in Trump wear or MAGA wear. How do you know it was Trump supporters who did this? Or, no violence should have been, portrayed, but these people are true patriots, these are all coming from Republican talking heads. And again, you have people who have voted on the floor in the House and in the Senate who, did not vote to certify Joe Biden's election. And, these people, again, we should not forget their names. I don't have the names right in front of me necessarily, but I do know of them, and we should not forget their names, and nor should their constituents. I just, I don't understand how folks like Mitch McConnell and Ted Cruz and folks like this, I don't understand how these people, Marco Rubio, Jim Jordan, You know, all these people who Hawley, you know, like I don't understand how they got unanimous support from their state to get elected. I just it's just mind blowing. And but you know, maybe the people who elected these people to go serve in Congress, maybe they didn't know of all the uh, the insanity that these people displayed recently, because what Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley and other Republican congressmen and women have been portraying is complete uh, complete craziness. And you know, but then again, 75 million people voted for Donald Trump in the previous election. So you know, I guess, you know, facts are not a thing for them. They don't really care about the facts. They just care about provoking, gaslighting, and being defiant of reality. And again, I'm not saying, because I know a lot of people who voted for Trump in 2016, a lot of independents jumped ship. But I mean, you got a lot of folks. You got a lot of folks, you know, who voted. You know, this was the biggest election turnout in history, and you know, you had 75 million people come out and support a man who, in my opinion, has been the worst presidency. Has been the worst president, at least in my lifetime. And I think that the Democrats, since the ball is in their court, I think that they should be aggressive in this. I think they should be aggressive in this approach. I think the AOCs of the world, the Bernie Sanders of the world, the Ilhan Omars of the world, the Rashida Tlaibs of the world, the Ayan Presleys, the Jamal Bowmans, the Cori Bushes, Ed Markey, the list goes on. I think that they are leading the way in this, and I think that Biden is going to have to cut the whole cosplay on the well, you know, we need Republican support, and you know, we need we need unity, you know, and you know, I still believe that my Republican friends on the other side will do the right thing. You know, we need to stop relying on them to do the right thing. And since since the Democrats have the power, they should use that power strategically. They should use it. They should use it for democracy, and that means if something that goes wrong, something that is unlawful that takes place within our country, if it's unlawful, then regardless of the statute of power, they should be held accountable. And that's just how I feel about it, guys. That's just honestly how I feel about it. And I'm glad that prosecutors are. I'm glad the U.S. Attorney General is prosecuting folks. because folks need to be prosecuted. Is what I'm trying to say. Because if you don't send a message to what happened, then what kind of message are you deploying on the national stage? Because what went down was a terrorist attack. It was a terrorist attack, and it was an attack on our democracy. And we got to be real with ourselves, guys. We got to be real. You know, if it was, you know, Trump deployed officers and the National Guard on BLM protesters, which was largely peaceful protesting. You know, it had them pepper sprayed, and rubber bullets were shot. You know, people got hurt, and you know, this man wanted to just walk down the street and take a photo walk at a church holding the Bible upside down, which which kind of crystallized him as a person, honestly. But if you don't see the double standard in what's going on, then again, I feel like you might be a part of the problem and not part of the solution. But I guess anything's better than nothing, and I'm glad that they're starting to prosecute people who played a part in that. But the to me the big picture is going to be the people who have power. Are they going to be, who played a part in it? You know, are they going to be held accountable, or, you know, because if they don't, to me, we don't have true democracy in this world, in this country. You know, I don't think we if people who incited the violence don't be held accountable. It's enough video to me determine clearly and convict clearly who were the insiders in that. But only time will tell, I guess. You know, I'm curious to know what you guys think, honestly, about it. But that's just my thoughts about it. I have so much thoughts and emotions about it. I feel like I can be here all day and night, literally talking about this, because it's just something that never happened before, at least in my lifetime, and it honestly exceeds any other corruption or any other unlawfulness that I've seen take upon our government. And it happened in plain sight for everybody to see. And it should be embarrassing. They should be embarrassed. People should be embarrassed. I know I definitely am, because, you know, America is so much better than what it portrays. But, you know, it all just goes back to, damn, I love America, but do America love me? You know, something to think about. But yeah, guys, that closes it on the article that I had for you guys. Those are my thoughts on it. We're going to take one last break, and we're going to close out the show. I'm just going to let you guys know where you can follow me at, and just do some shout outs and things like that. So if you want to, just stick around after this break, and we're going to close out the show. Thank you, guys. What's up, guys? We're back here on the Progressive Vibe. So, yeah, I just wanted to close out the show by saying I love you guys. Nothing but love. Thank you guys for, again, sharing the show and, continuing to be a listener of the podcast, man. Nothing is possible without you guys' listenership, so I appreciate that. The more the merrier, honestly. It's just a vibe. It's just a vibe. It's just like how I feel about again, just the political world, and I try to be progressive in doing so, and just have a progressive outlook on it. And I try to be authentic as possible, try to be as me as possible. I feel like that what makes your show or whatever you're aspiring to do, unique. It comes from your uniqueness as a person. So, whatever you guys are doing out there, people are going to always be in your ear talking about, well, you can't do this, or, oh, I wouldn't necessarily do this. Well, everybody lives their own life, and everybody has their own passion, and they have their own thing that they like to do. And if it's helping you, mentally or physically or whatever the case may be, guys, I'm all about spreading positivity. So, if it's a positive thing that you're doing that's helping you out, then hey, I'm all for it, man. I'm not trying to come on here and make enemies or whatever when I talk about politics, because everybody's living this life like I am. I mean, we all in this thing together, no matter if we like it or not, So while we're all here, at least we should try to get along, try to see what we can unravel, something that we can reach that next level, and you never know what we can reach if we all unify, and unify around the common good is what I'm going to say. Not saying that, you should go up to somebody who you don't particularly agree with and know what they're about and, try to convince them, because, that it might not happen. But if you can be a part of the solution than the problem, then I just feel like it's just going to overwhelm those type of people, That's why I always say, like, I was telling one of my friends the other day, I was like, man, we always talk about Republican and Democrat and things like that. If we get somebody who, if we elect somebody who carries that amount of power and burden, because, I don't necessarily think that being the president is all worthwhile, being in the spotlight 24/7, just your words are always being critiqued and things like that. But I feel like we're all Americans, or we're all people at the end of the day, and we all have emotions and things that we look upon our government to assist us with, no matter if we try to convey that we don't. And if that saying is too socialist or less government the better, or whatever like that. Let's just be real, guys. Wages need to be up in this country. People need to be able to go to college without being buried in student loan debt. We should have access to universal health care. People shouldn't be homeless. People shouldn't be hungry. And people should be able to get a fair shake in the American dream, as we say. No matter what color, no matter what religion, no matter what, just no matter genre, no matter what, if I feel like if you are trying to do right, if you're doing right in this world, if you're trying to do right, if you're trying to put in that positive change that we're trying to put off, then I feel like, you should be rewarded. And, sometimes you got to reward the people who, again, I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way, but, as I was saying when I was telling my friend about the whole, like, Republican Democrat thing, if we had policies and in this country that actually went and benefited the average person, you would persuade minds by just doing that. You wouldn't even have to necessarily use words. You would just use your actions and let that do all the speaking. Because once you start impacting people's lives for the better, and helping the environment and putting more money in people's pocket, and that means that they're able to take care of their families and stuff like that, then I feel like I feel like people will be more inclined to do the right thing, and people will be more persuaded to be on the right side. And that's just how I feel about it, guys. But don't let nobody tell you that you can't do anything, or what you're doing is not contributing to society, because it is. We all play a role. People that work out here, that grind all the time, sun up to sundown, you play a part, and that's the truck drivers, that's the farmers, that's the healthcare workers, that's the retail industry, that's the restaurant industry. It's everybody, and it's about time for we the people, to be rewarded for that. Be rewarded for you making that sacrifice to make the world go around, because no matter how much you think that your role doesn't play a part, oh, believe me, it does. It does. And we're seeing it now. And it's showing through the cracks of our country, so I love you guys. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to all y'all. Shout out to all the listeners. And one more thing before we close the show, you guys can reach me on Twitter. That's usually where I'm at. That is Dottie, DODI_vibe, VIBE. You can reach me there. I pretty much always be posting stuff. And I see some of my listeners have already followed me. And again, I follow back. So I love you guys. Until next time, y'all stay safe. Wear your mask. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace out, guys. Yeah. Stay progressive. Stay positive. That's the quote I wanted to end. So I had to come back to the mic and say that. Stay progressive. Stay positive. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace.